We didn't pay any attention to the Constitution. The war is undeclared. That makes the war illegal, immoral, impractical. We can't afford it. So we need to end it. You know, in the year 2000, Republicans took over the White House, and of course we got hold of the House and the Senate, and we were supposed to change things. And the foreign policy program of the year 2000 was strong criticism against nation building and being the world's policeman and interfering in internal affairs of other nations. We were strongly critical of Bill Clinton. And lo and behold, what have we done? Exactly the same thing. Now we're involved in much more major wars. We're involved in Iraq, we're involved in Afghanistan, and it is endless. But not only that, is we're involved in too many other places. Just think of the mess that we have in Pakistan. Why do we feel so obligated that our taxpayers have to be used to prop up military dictators like Musharraf? We are told that we have a responsibility to spread our goodness around the world through force by the use of arms, that we should force democracy on other countries. At the same time, we're fighting wars to support military dictators that overthrew democratically elected leaders. But we've been doing it for way too long. It started in 1953 in our recent history with overthrowing the dictator or the elected leader of Iran and putting in the Shah. And we've suffered the consequences since. But we're very much involved in trying to pick the next dictator in Pakistan. People say, well, if we don't, how are we going to be safe? Well, I say, tell you one thing, the more of that we do, the less safe we are. Terrorism is a real problem, and we need to understand it. But I've come to the conclusion, and so many others have come to this conclusion, by just using some common sense, that terrorism, the threat of terrorism is increased with the current foreign policy. It is not diminished with our foreign policy. The foolishness of our foreign policy requires that our government tax us to the hilt, and then they borrow to the hilt, and then they print the money, and then they go over and they blow up bridges with our money, which drains our economy. At the same time, then we feel obligated that we have to rebuild the bridges that we blew up. What we need to do is quit the blowing up and the building of other people's bridges and build and take care of our own bridges here at home. You know, in the last couple of years, we have been involved in building a new embassy for Iraq. You know, there's hints at times from the administration and others that say, well, we don't want to be there permanently. But we know what's behind the goal of having 14 permanent air bases and army posts in Iraq. At the same time, we as taxpayers have been asked to pay $1 billion to build an embassy in Baghdad, the biggest in the world, biggest the Vatican. Now, does that show a sign that we don't have intention of running their country? It makes no sense whatsoever. What we need to do is just look to our Constitution. The Constitution does not give us authority. There's no authority to do this. Was very correct. It said stay out of entangling alliances, trade with people, be diplomatic with people, be friends with people. Sure, there's going to be a lot of the people in the world that have shortcomings, but we have our own. Our obligation is to take care of our own shortcomings. Now, at the height of the Cold War, there were decisions made, which I think were proper at the time, to at least talk to the Chinese and the Soviets. And, and that, of course, has led to the end of the Cold War, and we didn't have to fight. If we could talk to Khrushchev and Mao Zedong in China and work out a better relationship, don't you think we could at least have diplomatic relations with Cuba and for that matter, why can't we at least talk to the Iranians? Why do we have to say... Early on in one of the debates, it came up with what our options might be for the Iranians. And the other candidates were not even willing to take off the table a nuclear first strike. That makes no sense whatsoever. But what will bring it to end is the finances, because that's the way it usually ends, unless we can reverse the trend. We can end it differently. We can end it with common sense and following the law. But if we continue to do this, it will be ending with a financial crisis, and that is what the devaluation of the dollar is telling us today. Every single day we see the dollar keep slipping and slipping and slipping. There are some in Washington who actually advocate a weak dollar. Now that makes a whole lot of sense to me. We all have dollars. We're forced to use dollars. If you try to use gold, they're liable to put us in jail for doing it. Since we hold dollars, we work for dollars, and then our government's position is deliberately to devalue the dollar, are they on our side or not? No. That makes no sense.
They're robbing us!
So what we need to do is, of course, think about the monetary system, and the monetary system has been corrupted. The monetary system is unconstitutional. It doesn't exist in the Constitution. Early on, the debate of money occurred during the convention. It was said that we couldn't emit bills of credit, which is paper money. It was also said that only gold and silver could be legal tender, and there was no authority for a central bank. Quickly thereafter, Hamilton established a national bank, and of course, Thomas Jefferson came along and got rid of it. And then, of course, the Second National Bank came along, and Andrew Jackson, another gold standard guy, got rid of that bank, too. So I can guarantee you, if I am to be your president, I will enjoy getting rid of the Third National Bank. One problem, and that is that the big bankers and the military-industrial establishment, the entire establishment, are against us. They're against the people because they use that system to undermine us through this sinister method of taxation, which is the inflation tax, by just creating money out of thin air, and it has to stop before it brings us down.
I think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
The battle lines have been drawn. Nobody's right when everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds.